Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dottie, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my itinerary for Japan, the pre-flight forms that I filled out before the flight this coming weekend, the costs of the hotel and the flight, and tips that I learned from last year's trip that I want to share with you to hopefully help you out on your next trip to Japan. And I know I said in my last video that I was going to be showing me packing, but my packing cubes that I ordered off of Amazon have not arrived. They were supposed to arrive yesterday, but they haven't. It's now delayed. So I ordered a different set of packing cubes that should arrive today, hopefully. All right, let's get started. So starting with the itinerary, we're going to be in Japan for 10 full days. Now, I say 10 full days because we're going to fly on the 29th of October, so we're going to lose that day. And then we're going to arrive the following day in Japan on the 30th, but like around 6 p.m. So that whole day is completely gone. And then when we fly back on November 10th, that day is completely gone as well, because we're going to wake up and then get ready to go to the airport and fly back home. The itinerary for the 10 full days: the first night when we land, we're going to land at the Tokyo Haneda Airport, and so since it will be really late, we're going to spend the first night in Tokyo. The following day, we're going to take the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train, and we're going to buy the Shinkansen tickets at the Tokyo station. We were thinking about buying the JR Pass, but after watching a video that I watched yesterday breaking down the cost of the JR Pass, it is not going to be worth it for us because we're going to be in Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto only. And so the cost for those is going to be a lot cheaper if we just buy each one separately than getting the JR Pass for the 7 days that we were planning on buying. It would have been around $500, so not worth it for us. So we're going to take the Shinkansen to Osaka, and we're going to spend 2 nights in Osaka. And so what we're going to do there is we're going to explore as much of Osaka as we can, and on November 1st we're going to go to Universal Japan. I'm very excited to go. I visited Universal Studios here in California, but I'm way more excited to visit it in a different country, in Japan. And then after those 2 nights in Osaka, we're going to go to Kyoto, and we're going to spend 3 nights in Kyoto. And I'm really excited for the Fushimi Inari Shrine hiking tour. We purchased that tour online, and the reason why I did that was because that place is a very touristy place. Oh gosh, Odie! He's bothering Tails. If you don't know, I have an adopted son, Tails. He is a squirrel, so he's kind of getting upset at Odie right now. So we booked a hiking tour to the Fushimi Inari Shrine, and this is going to be led by a local Japanese person, and we hope that when we get to the top of the shrine that there'll be very little people, because I hear from watching YouTube videos that not a lot of people make it all the way to the top because it's so long. And so I'm really excited for that. And then we're going to explore other places in Kyoto. I'm trying to avoid the very touristy spots because just all the crowds just really ruin the experience for me. And if you're like me, you know, so we're going to try to avoid all the touristy areas because I've been watching the October updates on YouTube for the YouTubers that I watch that live in Japan, and it is packed up the ass on these places like the Bamboo Forest, the Kiyomizu Temple that I wanted to also visit, but it's just going to be too packed. So I'm just going to avoid all of the crowds and go elsewhere. I'm sorry that Tails is making a lot of noise. I don't know why he's upset. Odie! So after Kyoto, we're going to spend the last 4.5 days in Tokyo. And in Tokyo, we're going to be doing a lot of themed cafes. So like the Kirby Cafe, the Pokemon Cafe, the Gangnam Cafe, Monster Hunter Bar, I think is a bar and it's not a cafe. and other themed cafes like that. We're also going to go to Tokyo Disney, and we wanted to do that last year when we went. We only went for like 5 or 6 days to Tokyo last year, but we weren't able to buy the Tokyo Disney tickets because it was just too short notice. Like as soon as Japan opened last year, we booked the flight and the hotel and we left, so it was very little time to plan. So this time we're going to be hitting Tokyo Disney. That's about it for Tokyo. Other than those, we're just going to explore Tokyo. Next up is the pre-flight forms. So I'm going to fly out this Sunday, the October 29th. And what I did to prep for that is I filled out something called STEP, S-T-E-P, and that's for the US government, so that they know that you're going to be in a different country just in case, they need to pull you out of the country for any catastrophe, disaster, war, anything like that. So I filled that out. And then after I did that, I went to Visit Japan Web online and I filled out the immigration and custom forms for myself and my fiance. Last year I had to do the same thing, but last year they required the COVID vaccination record. This time they dropped it, so there's no more COVID vaccination record that you need to prove that you are vaccinated. You can just fill out the immigration and the customs form and then bring that QR code when you land, just scan it and you're good. That's also going to be part of my tip. I'm going to get into more of that later in my tips. After that, I bought traveler's insurance. So I used the same company as I used last year just because I already had an account with them, I already had records with them, so I just made it easy and just purchased traveler's insurance through them again. And anything I say, these links, I'm going to put it in the description below for your reference. After I bought the traveler's insurance, I notified my bank that I was going to be in Japan so that I could use my debit card and my credit card just in case I need to pull out more money and just in case I need to put like a hold on my credit card. Like last year, the hold on my credit card was for the portable Wi-Fi box that we rented at the airport, and they needed a credit card just to hold a hold. I think it was like a $200 hold or something like that. So that's what I did. Okay, moving on to costs. So for the hotels in Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, they came out to around 1.2K US dollars. And these are like business hotels, and so they're quite small, very small, but they are in very good locations, so they were a bit pricey on that front. And for the flight, it came out to 3.4K US dollars. Now that's pretty pricey. You can definitely get flights a lot cheaper than that. The only reason it was that expensive is because I'm flying on Japan Airlines, and what that means is that their seats are a little bit bigger, a little bit more comfier. You have a little bit more leg and knee room. That's all I can think of right now. And so from my experience in last year's flight, we were in economy. In our row was 3 seats. My fiance had the window, I was in the middle, and then I was next to a lady who had the aisle seat. And so this kind of caused a problem because I have a very small bladder, and so I didn't want to inconvenience the lady in the aisle too often to go to the bathroom. So I held my bladder for as long as I could during that 12-hour flight until, I needed to go. So, but when she got up, I also got up so I could go to the bathroom. And whenever I got up, my fiance got up so that he could go to the bathroom. Like, it's just really weird and awkward, and we just didn't want to inconvenience the person on the aisle. Not only that, but we had people behind us in the row, and we just don't feel right using the recline on the seats. It just feels like rude to us, so we didn't recline our seats. So for this flight, I booked this up to premium economy, and I chose our seats to the other side of the plane where there's our whole row is to ourselves. There's only 2 seats in our row, myself and my fiance, and we are all the way in the back. So if we can recline back, I don't know if there's a wall behind us, but if there isn't, we'll be more comfortable to recline our seats back and rest better on the plane because it's a 12-hour flight. And we're going to be right next to the bathroom so that I can get up as often as I need to use the bathroom. And then because it's only us 2 in the row, we can get up as often as we'd like to stretch our legs and our knees, which is very important on a 12-hour flight. So that is why this time it costs a little bit more to fly to Japan on Japan Airlines. And I know for the cost for the hotel and flight, that is not the total cost of the trip. I just included those because that is what I am paying for on this trip. My fiance will be paying for the transit fees, the food, and all the activities that we are going to be doing in Japan. So that is how we split up the trip cost. And I know it seems like I paid more for the trip, but that was my choice because I want to give more value to the comfort of the 12-hour plane ride over the cost. So I highly recommend to try to purchase as much comfort as you can afford because that is a very long plane ride, 12 hours. So moving on to my tips. All right, so I mentioned I filled out the immigration and custom forms on Visit Japan Web Online. I would recommend it highly because when you fill that out online, all you have to do is pull out your phone, and when it is your turn, just scan the QR codes for the immigration, for the customs, and you're on your way. If you don't do that, on the airplane, they're going to give you a paper form for the immigration and customs, which you have to fill out. And then when you get off the plane, you give the paper to the person at the counter, and they're going to have to manually enter all of that into the computer, which takes a lot of time, which is why it takes so long to get through that line. So I highly recommend filling out those forms online on Visit Japan Web, and then use your phone to scan the QR codes. And like I said, everything I say, I'm going to put down in the description for you so that it is helpful for your next trip to Japan. All right, so for apps, we downloaded the Google Translate app, and that really helped us to, like, if we needed to say something in Japanese that we didn't know, we could type it in the app in English and it would translate it into Japanese. A couple times I had to, because I wasn't getting the pronunciation right, I just had the app say it instead so that the person could understand me better. Not only that, but you can use the camera in the Google Translate app to translate the Japanese signs, menus into English, so that, you know, if you're at a restaurant and the menu doesn't have English on it, you can just highlight it and it'll translate it to English. Or if you're trying to read a sign, trying to go somewhere, you can use the camera and it'll translate it to English for you. So that was very helpful on our trip last year. And now getting around the transit system, we used Apple Maps because we have an iPhone, so that was already on our phones to use, and it was very accurate. The other app is Google Maps. We also downloaded that one, but because we were unfamiliar with how to read Google Maps, like, we were just too stressed on trying to figure out how to, like, read it. Versus Apple Maps, we're very used to that, so we use that. So use whatever app is convenient and easy for you. The only thing about the maps is that it was kind of hard to figure out where to go when you're in the train station, because it can get quite confusing. to find the number station that you need to go to. But as soon as you find it and you follow the directions, it is very accurate. And we used it on the subway line and also the bus line. Another thing to note is that I would recommend learning basic Japanese words and phrases, and I'll show it on the screen right now. These are the words and phrases that we used last year to get by, to get around. So I highly recommend you learn these words in Japanese. This year, we are adding more words and phrases just to get better at the Japanese language, because we want to visit Japan every year or every other year, so it would be more beneficial for us to start learning the language here, because no one in Japan speaks English. It was very difficult to communicate with them because they didn't know English and we didn't know Japanese. So our goal is to get better at learning Japanese and conversing in the language so that we can get around better. And because we were trying to speak their language as best as we could with pronunciations, they were more willing to help us. We were just trying to be very respectful and polite and represent where we come from, the US, as best as possible, which is what I would recommend for you to do. Just be as respectful and polite and try to represent your country as best you can, and to try to learn their language because you are in their country, so at least give it an effort. They are nice in general, just be nice back. We did witness some foreigners from other countries be not so nice, so just represent your country well. Another thing is when you go to the bathroom, they do not have paper towels or hand drying machines. And I did see hand drying machines in some of the bathrooms, but they didn't work. So in order to combat that, I saw people pull out from their purses a hand towel to dry their hands, and then that's how they dried their hands. So once I caught on to that, I quickly went to the store and bought a hand towel for myself for the bathroom so I could dry my hands. All right, that is it for this video. Hopefully, oh, my cat. Nar! Hopefully my next video I will be showing you how I pack my carry-on, because all I'm going to be bringing with me is a carry-on and a personal item, because last year we brought those big luggages that we had to check into the airport, and that was a mistake because the hotels, they are business hotels, so they are very, very small, and our two big ass luggages, they barely fit on the floor, and we didn't have a lot of floor space. If you're interested on how that looked and how my Japan trip last year went, you can check my Instagram. It's on my story, Japan 2022. I'll be doing a similar thing. I'll be posting on Instagram the things that I do, where we're at, and things like that. So if you're interested, you can follow me on Instagram and see all the stuff that I do in Japan. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.